Welcome to the Recovery Effect Podcast with Bill Vineyard. Recovery is Bill's passion and his life's work of 30 plus years. Now it's your turn to experience the Recovery Effect, a powerful mix of recovery, spirituality, philosophy, and most importantly, living life as your true self. Now here's your host, Bill Vineyard.
Would, two men on death row, each having less than 24 hours to live. One is innocent and one is guilty. My question is, what do you think's going through their mind at this moment in time? What do you think is the most important thing in their life at this time? Do you think that the innocent one is sitting around in self-pity and anger over the way that he's been wronged by society? I doubt if he's spending his last few hours doing that. I suspect he's already settled that issue and accepted his fate. Do you think they're thinking about their last meal? What they're going to have? How they want it cooked? I doubt it. How about the smoke, their last smoke? Do you think they're thinking about how they're going to enjoy that? No, I don't think they're doing that either. How about the state of the world's affairs? Do they sit there thinking how the world sucks and how bad it is? Nah, not that either. I bet they're not even thinking about who loves them and who don't, or who they love and who they don't, because they realize that in a few hours that won't matter, because they won't be here. There are two things I feel is worth mentioning with these two death row inmates as they approach their final hour, and one of them is they have a secret, and the other one is they have realized the most important thing a human being will ever know. Let's start with their secret. They know and have deeply accepted that in regards to life, they're not in control. They can't determine what life gives them or what life takes away from them. When it comes to the totality of life, they can do nothing. They are capable of nothing. Even the best laid out plans will change at a moment's notice. You can't demand from life something that it does not want to give you. You can't walk out on your front porch in the morning and read off a list to life of the things you want done and the things you want today. Life will laugh at you and say, I'll give you what I want to give you, and you'll have to deal with it. You're not in charge. The innocent man on death row is a perfect example of this. He lived a good, moral life. He was a faithful husband, a good father, a good employee, a good neighbor. He did good in his community. He didn't drink. He didn't drug. He was scheduled to have his house paid off in 10 years. He had a retirement account, and he had money in the bank to send his children to college. He went to work one morning, and before day's end, he was sitting in jail on a capital murder charge. He knew this was a mistake and that life would soon sort this out, and he would be out of jail in no time. But here he is, sitting on death row with a few hours left to live. What a change in life. How unpredictable life really is. He knows the randomness and changeability of life. Do you know that there are over 16,000 people each year that get up in the morning fully expecting to go to bed at night, but are murdered before the day's over? There's 173,000 rapes per year. 173,000 people who never planned or expected this to ever happen to them. And check this out. Over 38,000 people head down the roadways each year, fully expecting to reach their destination, but are killed in an automobile accident. 4.4 million are injured in automobile accidents a year. Life is changeable, random, unpredictable. Even what we consider little things. Like you get up in the morning and you go out to go to work and you have a flat tire. Or that you've been working on the same job for 10 to 15, 20 years. And you go to work one day and get a layoff notice. Or you get the flu, fully expecting that you'd be able to go to your daughter's graduation that night, but can't. So many things happen in our life on a daily basis that reveals the secret that these death row inmates know, but we dismiss them. Why do we dismiss them? Because that secret that we're not in control of what's going to happen to us is terrifying. We like to think we're in control. We like to think that we can prevent our children from being hurt, raped, or killed. We'd like to think that we can prevent a disease attacking us, but we can't. No one likes to get up in the morning and drive down the highway thinking maybe this will be my last drive. That's a terrifying thought, and it would probably drive us nuts. Ernest Becker, in his Pulitzer Prize-winning book, The Denial of Death, said that there are people who have been diagnosed as neurotic who are scared to leave their home. They're scared they might get killed or get in a car wreck or catch a disease, so they stay huddled in their house so they can feel secure in their environment. But you know what else he said? They're right. Life is that changeable. They know the terrifying secret. Where do we go if we accept this secret? The secret that we can't control what life gives us or what life takes away from us. We can't control our life. Where does that take us? It could take us to a position that we just want to hunker down and be as secure as possible. Go to a job each day that we hate because we don't want to take the risk of doing what we want to do. It might take us to a point where we'll stay in a marriage that should have ended long ago. It just takes us to a prison of our own making that we don't mind living in because we feel secure within that prison. Or it could take us to realizing the most important thing a human being will ever know, and that is that we need God. So we can either hunker down and try to live the most secure life possible, or we can realize that we need God. You know, the alcoholic and addict are much like our death row inmates. They have run out of options. They know the secret. They have tried to control their life and their addiction and have failed miserably. They know they're powerless. They know that in order to live, in order to breathe, in order to function, they need God. The great thing about that, the great thing about realizing that you need God, is that by needing God, you come to know God. It is by coming to know and accepting this great need that you have, the need for a power greater than yourself, the need for God, that one comes to know God. You know, I bet a person can go through their whole life, going to church every Sunday, tithing to their church, being a good father, a good mother, helping out in their community, feeding the poor, and still not know God. Why? Because they never needed God. Years ago, my mother had a stroke, and I went up to the hospital to see her. And when I walked into the room and looked at her, I knew she wasn't long for the world. My sister was there in the room, and after we discussed her condition, we both bowed our heads and prayed, asking God for a miracle. After we were done, I went out into the visiting area, and my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, was sitting there reading a magazine. I sat down and we started talking about my mom's condition. During this conversation, I asked Tom. I said, Tom, do you know God? And Tom said, no, I don't. And I said, why? And he said, well, Bill, I never needed him. That was one of the most profound and honest comments I've ever had in response to that question. Tom never knew God because he never needed God. He was a good man. He didn't drink or drug. He took care of my sister and the family. He didn't know God simply because he never needed God. The alcoholic is not like this. He knows he needs God. He knows he needs God on a daily basis. One of the principles that he exercises on a daily basis to stay sober is that when he gets up in the morning, he gets down on his knees and asks God to keep him sober today. And when his day is ended and he's getting ready to go to bed, he goes back down on his knees and thanks God for this day of sobriety. He is fully aware that he needs God and that he needs God on a daily basis. He needs God in order to be a decent human being and succeed at life. And equally important is he knows what he was before he realized he needed God. He knows how helpless he was, how powerless he was. He knows how his life was before the realization that he needed God. And before the realization that he needed God led him to knowing God. He knows what he was, and he knows what he is today. And most importantly, he knows what got him there. How thankful he is that each day he deep within himself knows how much he needs God. You know, I'd be doomed if I had all the money I needed, if I had excellent health, if I had enough power that no one could ever hurt me again. I would be totally doomed because I would not need God. I know me. If I had all those things, I would have the attitude that now it is time to eat, drink, and be merry. You know, years ago, I had a terrible crisis happen in my life. A crisis that brought me down to the mat and almost knocked me out. I barely came out of it. And this crisis was totally unwarranted. It came from a bunch of powerful people who were jealous and greedy. And when this hit, it almost destroyed me. But what was even far worse than that was my reaction to that crisis. I went crazy. I could not figure out how something this bad could happen to me who was helping people, living the right life, faithful husband, my children were in private school. I was a good and decent member of my community. And here this happened. I could just not fathom. I could not reconcile what I was doing and how good of a guy I felt I was with how bad this crisis was. So I reacted insanely. I bought an 80-acre farm. I put 10 cows on it and started growing organic vegetables. What I was doing was trying to become self-reliant. I was trying to feel secure. I didn't want to leave God. I just wanted to be secure, both me and my family. And I didn't think God could totally provide that. It was obvious by the crisis I was in. I was somewhat like St. Teresa when she got bucked off her mule into a mud puddle. As she pulled herself out of the mud, she looked up at the sky and told God, "If you treat your friends like this, no wonder you have so few." That's exactly how I felt. I could not figure out for the life of me how God, with me being his friend, doing this good work, being a good person, could allow something this traumatic to happen to me. So I took matters into my own hands and bought the cows and grew the vegetables. I used to walk out by the fence in the evening times and watch the cows graze. I remember one time I was standing out there watching them graze, and I thought to myself, I have enough meat to last me until my oldest child graduates from high school. I just wanted to feel that security, that self-reliance, that nothing could hurt me now. I wanted to be in a position of complete and total security. I didn't even think that those cows might catch a disease and die, or that someone might steal them. These thoughts didn't enter my mind because, you see, I didn't want to know that terrifying secret, that I wasn't in control, that life could hand me what it wanted to. I wanted enough meat to last me and my family until all my kids had graduated through high school. Bottom line, I wanted to get into a position to where I didn't need God, to not have to accept that terrifying secret. I think the alcohol and drug field have moved to a self-reliant mode of treatment. They're moving towards medication and psychotherapy, even though most of the people that go to the mental health that are alcoholic or drug addict don't receive real psychotherapy. Usually they're just placed on medication and told to come back in a few months. I've been in this field for over 37 years, and I have never seen it in worse shape. We're trying to produce a recovery without God, a godless recovery. We're trying to control the alcohol and drug problem by our own resources, the medical mode of treatment, and it's simply not working. It is a gross understatement to say that the problem's getting worse, but it is. What they're doing is absolutely not working. Those who have experienced both models of those treatments, the medical model and the 12-step model, are far more favorable toward the 12-step model of treatment. Let me ask you a question. If an alcoholic and drug addict could get sober and clean on their own personal resources, would that be the highest and best thing a human being would ever know? Probably not. Sometimes in AA meetings, it's asked that if you could take a pill that would have cured your alcoholism, would have you have taken it instead of joining the 12-step program? And by far, they have all said no. They're glad they had to join the 12-step program to get sober. Why is that? Why wouldn't they simply just want to drop a pill that cured them of their alcoholism, rather than go through all the work and all the meetings, working all the steps to get sober? I know the reason. Is because they found something far, far better than just taking a pill to not drink or drug. I've also heard the question asked, if they could give them a pill that would allow them to drink like normal social drinkers, would they take it? Again, I've never heard anyone say yes to that they would. Why? Because they found something far better. Something much, much, much more than just being able to socially drink. Life has taken on a deeper meaning, and it continues to do so as they continue to work the program. Why would they want to give that up just to be able to socially drink? They don't. Because the adoption of spiritual principles has been such a great benefit in their life that they don't want to let go of that. With God, the alcoholic and addict is capable of much, much more than they ever dreamed they were capable of. Can medication help and conquer the fears that they have? Can it teach them how to forgive, how to succeed in a relationship, how to be a better mother or a better father, a better son or a better daughter? Can it provide them with the faith that they're going to need when they get ready to depart this earth? Of course not. I know this to be a fact from my own personal life. From my earliest remembrance, I can remember being scared alive, in some ways terrified. I always wondered why. Maybe it was the operation when they took out my kidney when I was 10 days old. I don't think so, though. I know they say there's infantile trauma, but I just don't feel that that was the cause. Maybe it was because I was removed from my grandparents' home at the age of 12 and put into an institution. I know that caused a lot of trauma, and it might have contributed to my fear and terror, but I don't think that's the whole story. I really think most of my fear and terror came from my relationship with my mother. My mother was a very terrifying and violent woman. Ever since I can remember, I never knew how she was going to be on an hour-to-hour basis. I'd be terrified when I'd come home from playing with my friends or when I got out of school. I'd be terrified to open the door because I didn't know what I was going to find. Some days were good and some days were not good. The fact is, I just didn't know what was going to happen to me when I walked in that house. You know, I've often thought that I view life as that house with my mother in it, and I'm standing on the outside, not wanting to go in. Because even at that young of age, I knew the secret. I knew that life was unpredictable, that it could change in an instant. It could change to the better and it could change to the worst. The unpredictability was terrifying. The saddest part of that scenario that I just gave you is that I knew the secret, but I didn't know the answer. When you only know the secret that you can't control life, that life can be terrifying, that there's painful events that's going to come and there's nothing you can do about it. When you know that secret and you don't know the answer, it puts you in one of the worst fearful states you can live in. This is the reason I thank God for my own alcoholism, because it was through that I found the answer, that I found the highest thing a human being can ever know was to need God. And because I knew that, because I knew that I needed God, I came to know God. Because it was through needing God we come to know God. Therefore, we know that God lives, and we know He's real, and that He loves us. This isn't taught to us. This isn't an intellectual exercise like math. We have experiences, and these experiences turn into facts about our life. We become new human beings. When an alcoholic and addict that's worked the 12-step program for a period of time looks back on his life and realizes that he has become a new human being. He's not the same guy that was drunk, beating his wife, going to jail, stealing his kids' money, wrecking the car, quitting jobs. He's a good father, a good husband, a good employee. He's become a new human being from the simple fact that he realized that he needed God. And by needing God, he come to know God. I sometimes think that the worst thing that could happen is for a person to be real secure and self-reliant in this life, to never know that you need God. All these so-called bad things that happens to people, that happened to me, always pointed its finger towards that fact that you need God. May my life and your life always have the right amount of fear, insecurity, and pain to never allow us to leave the position that we need God. So accept the terrifying secret of the unpredictable life that we have. Realize that the single and highest thing a human being can ever know is that they need God. Needing God leads to knowing God. And that is the single highest way to live your life. But of course, I don't need to tell you that. You know that already.
Thanks for listening to The Recovery Effect with Bill Vineyard. Check out more at therecoveryeffect.com and facebook.com/therecoveryeffect. And don't forget to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes.